You know that feeling, right? You finally clean up your desk or messy room, and all of a sudden, your brain just feels clearer. It's almost magical. But is it just a feeling, or is there some real science to it? Well, today we're going to unpack that exact connection between our physical world and our mental state, and see what the research actually has to say. So let's just start with the big question. Could decluttering actually be as good for our minds as something like meditation? I mean, we all hear about meditation being the gold standard for calming your brain. But what if the simple act of clearing out our stuff could give us a similar boost? That's the core mystery we're diving into today. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty science, we have to talk about where all this stuff even comes from. See, clutter isn't just you being a little disorganized. Nope. It's often the symptom of a much, much bigger cultural machine, a society that is pretty much built on telling us to buy more things. So what are we even talking about when we say clutter? Well, researchers have a pretty specific definition. It's not just about having a lot of stuff, it's when you have an excess of things that don't really have a purpose anymore, and they create this sense of disorder that, and this is the key part, makes us feel overwhelmed. And this, right here, is why it's so hard to let go. Our things aren't just things to us. We see them as little pieces of who we are, our memories, our hopes, our identity. That old t-shirt from a concert, that pile of books you're definitely going to read someday, they're all tangled up in our idea of ourselves, which makes getting rid of them feel like getting rid of a part of us. So this attachment we have to all our stuff, it comes with a price. And I'm not just talking about an emotional one. We're talking financially and even physically. And some of the data on this is, well, it's pretty wild. Get ready for this number, 300,000. According to research, that is the number of individual items in the average American home. Just stop and think about that for a second. Imagine the sheer mental energy it takes to manage all of that stuff. And this chart really puts that consumption into perspective. The US has about 3% of the world's kids, right? But those kids consume 40% of the world's toys. It just goes to show you how deep this culture of more starts and how early. And it's not just the cost of buying things, it's the cost of losing them in our own homes. Americans spend a whopping $2.7 billion every year replacing things they've misplaced somewhere in their own clutter. That is real money just vanishing because of disorganization. But the cost goes way deeper than our wallets. A really interesting study from 2010 found that women who said their homes were cluttered actually had a biological sign of chronic stress. Their cortisol levels, that's the stress hormone, didn't have the healthy rhythm of rising in the morning and falling at night. It was just kind of flat. And that flat slope is a huge physiological red flag, directly connecting the mess in our houses to our physical health. Okay, so knowing all of these negative effects, it makes you wonder, if we fix the clutter, can we fix our minds? Well, this very question led some researchers at Harvard to set up a pretty cool scientific showdown. These researchers wanted to get past the anecdotes and find some actual hard evidence. So they asked a really simple but powerful question. If you declutter for 2 weeks, can that improve your well-being as much as a daily mindfulness meditation practice? So here's how they set up the experiment. They got a bunch of people and split them into 2 groups. Group 1, the decluttering group, had to get rid of an increasing number of items from their home every day. Group 2, the meditation group, had to do guided mindfulness exercises daily. The plan was to compare the results head-to-head. Simple enough, right? The stage was totally set for a nice, clean answer. But then, the real world decided to throw in the biggest plot twist imaginable, and it completely derailed the whole thing. I mean, you cannot make this up. The study officially launched in March of 2020. Yes, that March 2020, the exact moment the entire world was shutting down for the COVID-19 pandemic. All of a sudden, people had way bigger things to worry about than a 14-day study. And this chart from the actual study, it tells the whole story. You can see how many people signed up at the beginning, and then you just watch the numbers plummet day after day. It was a massive problem for researchers everywhere at the time, not just this study. So the big experiment didn't really give us a clean statistical answer, but that doesn't mean it was a total failure. Because if you sift through what little data they did get, you start to find some really fascinating clues. So here's the bottom line. Only 6 people actually finished the decluttering part of the study. And get this, 0 people finished the meditation part. So yeah, a formal scientific analysis? Totally impossible. But the feedback from those 6 people who stuck with the decluttering, that's where things get really interesting. So let's look at what those 6 people said. The results are kind of mixed in a really curious way. On the plus side, Over the 2 weeks, they felt more in control, more empowered, and like they had a greater sense of purpose. They also enjoyed being in their homes more. But, and this is the weird part, their feelings of productivity and calm actually went down a bit. Now that could totally be because of, the global pandemic happening outside, but it also might hint that the process of decluttering is actually a little bit stressful itself before you get that final feeling of calm.
But the real gold is in the participants' comments. This person said that having this simple task, just pick one thing, actually made it easier to make other decisions. It created this ripple effect. It's like the simple act of decluttering was exercise for their decision-making muscle. And I love this quote. This person said, this study gave them permission to finally get rid of things. That one word, permission, tells you so much. It really shows the psychological grip our stuff can have on us and the incredible freedom that comes when we finally feel like we're allowed to let it go. So, the hard science might still be a little fuzzy, but all the clues point to something really powerful going on here. And that brings us to the most important part of all, how you can actually put these ideas to work for yourself. The researchers actually put together a list of tools that can help you build those organizational habits that stop clutter before it even starts. There's everything from simple checklists like Google Keep to apps like Habitica that turn your to-do list into a game. The point is to find a system that actually works for your brain. And really, that's the big takeaway from all of this. The Harvard study couldn't give us that perfect final answer. But you know what? That's actually kind of cool because it's an invitation. It means you get to be the scientist. You get to run the experiment in the only laboratory that really matters, your own space, your own life. So let's end on that note. Don't worry about completely transforming your entire house overnight. Just think about everything we've talked about, the link between stress and stuff, that feeling of permission, the power of one small decision. With all that in mind, what's just one thing you could let go of today?